For starters, it's exam period and that means I am extra stressed, which means I buy more books because that's really how you solve your problems. And also Book Depository had this huge sale that I couldn't resist, so I had to get the books because stress and sale equals buy books. And lastly, I won 2 giveaways and those 2 books are here too. So let me get on to the 15 books that I have to show you in this haul. Okay, the first book that I have to show you is Finding Aubree by Sophie Kinsella. Can you believe that I haven't read a Sophie Kinsella book even though I love the chick lit genre? I can't wait to read this one. This one is about a main character who cannot leave her house. She can't even take off her dark sunglasses in her house, so she's got really severe anxiety and I think it's agoraphobia, but I might be wrong. But yes, she can't leave her house, but then her little brother's friend kind of smashes into her life and he starts taking her out of her shell and testing her and encouraging her to break free from her mental illness, and that's what this one is about. I'm a bit wary because it sounds like, you know, love is going to cure everything, but I've read reviews and apparently that is not the case, so I am very excited to laugh and finally love a Sophie Kinsella book. Next one I have to show you is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I have already read this book because the day it arrived at my university room I just had to read it straight away. I did a buddy read with a touch of Starlight on Instagram, I'll leave a link to Instagram down below, and this book was great, 5 stars. It's about this place called Shaker. It's the perfect place to live. Just imagine if every house was perfect, every family was perfect. But what happens is one of the perfect families decides to rent out this extra house that they have to a poor family. So it's kind of like they're doing some charity. The poor family move in, Mia and Pearl, a mother and daughter, and the mother and daughter really get captured by this family and the family get enraptured by them and they get very close to each other, especially the kids. And secrets start to unravel and then a lawsuit goes on about motherhood and it gets complex and deep. This is not a young adult read, this is an adult read, but it's still so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it and highly recommend this book to everyone. So happy that I bought it. Then I also got Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I was about to say absolutely fine, and this one is by Gail Honeyman. The synopsis doesn't tell you much. Eleanor Oliphant is someone who does things by routine. She does everything perfectly. She goes to work in the same clothes every day. She buys the same meal deal every day, but she also buys the same 2 bottles of vodka to drink every weekend. And I think this might be about alcoholism and how it's normalized to her but it's not actually normal, and how she's not, you know, actually fine in comparison to the title. So even though I've seen this one a lot, I've just heard a lot of good things about it and how it's very deep and dark, and I'm ready to go on this adventure with Eleanor Oliphant. Then I actually got a book by Neil Shusterman, and this one is called Scythe, and it's set in this fantasy world where the only way to die is to be gleamed by a Grim Reaper, and these 2 main characters become an apprentice of a Grim Reaper, and choosing who is going to die is only the beginning of their problems. That's really all the synopsis says, but people say that the world is fantastic and they say it was actually very enjoyable, fun read, actually humorous even though it's about Grim Reaper and death, and I'm very intrigued to finally read a Neil Shusterman book. Then I got The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupery. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his French name, but yes, this is a very well-known children's classic, but it's good for all ages. I've actually already read it, but I wanted to get the physical book because I love this book so much that it's one I want to share with, you know, everybody who comes by my house. So hopefully they can do that now that I have a physical copy. It's about an airman who crashes his plane into the desert and he comes across this little prince who comes from this like fantasy magical world, and this little prince kind of teaches this adult something about life while he's busy fixing his plane so he can go back on his way. It's so heartwarming, and there's so many beautiful lessons about life woven in there, with it still being a children's story, with it still being beautifully written. It's a classic and everybody needs to read this. Then I got Red Sparrow by Jason Matthews. This one you'll probably recognise from the cover. It's also a movie tie-in with Jennifer Lawrence starring in it. I can't really explain the synopsis very well because I think I'll do a very bad job at it, but it's a thriller. It's a like spy thriller. There's this Russian main character who becomes a Sparrow, which is this like seductress agent, and she doesn't really want to be one, and she's tasked to match and discover things about this CIA agent who is, you know, also doing agent side things. So it's like these two spies up against each other. I really don't want to tell you more than that because I don't want to get it wrong. You can also watch the movie trailer. I'll link that down below if you're interested. I pretty much got this book, which is quite big, because A, I like thrillers. I really don't read them that much, but when I do read one, I absolutely love it every time, so I just need to read more of them. This is the problem when you like all the genres. You literally want to read them all the time, but you just can't physically actively do that. I also really am curious to see this movie. It's gotten quite bad reviews, but it's Jennifer Lawrence, so I will eventually be seeing it. And I got The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and this is another children's classic that I read when I was a child, and I remember loving it when I was a child. I absolutely loved Mary as a character and her development. I just remember that vividly, but I don't really remember anything else about the story. So I thought I should buy myself a copy because I read it from my primary school library back then, so I can have it because I remember loving it and reread it again as, you know, my older self. This is about Mary, who is this really spoiled rich child, and because she's so spoiled, she gets sent to live with her hunchback uncle, and she's really, you know, not happy to be there. But while she's there, she discovers this secret garden and she makes friends with this boy, and in this secret garden she also discovers her cousin who is really ill and sickly and has been kept from her. And as she tends for this garden, she starts to develop, friendships start to develop, and these three kids, you know, start to all develop together. So it sounds like a really sweet story. I just remember really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to reading it again. Carrying on with the books that I've had on my Kindle forever but still haven't read, I now have Angel Fool by Susan E. Now, I like books about angels. I love angels, and I've read quite a few, but I need to read more, and I've heard so many good things about this series, this trilogy, that I just want to finally read it. So this one is about Penryn, and it's set in a world where these angels have come down to Earth in the apocalypse to like ruin and wreck the earth, and that's been happening, you know, street gangs rule the world. And when these warrior angels run off with this little girl who happens to be Penryn's sister, Penryn will do anything to get her back, even if that means making a deal with an enemy angel who is called Rafa, I believe, and they start to, you know, have this whole adventure to get Penryn's sister back, and I don't know what goes on between them, but I get a clue because this is young adult. But yes, very excited to finally read this book as well. I also got The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. I've never seen the movie. I actually didn't know there was a movie. I literally was looking at books that were cheap prices on Book Depository, came across this one, which I've surprisingly never heard of, and then thought, okay, let me go and check out what this one is about. And in the end I ended up buying it because it sounds so good. Lily is a 14-year-old girl, and she's grown up her whole life with her horrible father, believing that she accidentally killed her mother at 4 years old. Her only friend is the servant in her house, who it happens to be black. And when some racial tension explodes one summer and the black servant ends up being beaten and arrested, Lily feels like she needs to act. So Lily and this black servant end up running away and find solace with these three beekeeping sisters. That's all the synopsis tells me, but I always love a good book which discusses, you know, racial tensions and racism, and it also sounds like the parental and family kind of side of things will be very interestingly done, because Lily doesn't feel connection to her biological family, but clearly to this person who she's grown up with all her life. I'm very intrigued to read this one, and afterwards I will definitely be watching the movie because I also know it's a very well-known and well-recommended movie. Next up we have Ariel by Sylvia Plath. This is a poetry collection. Sylvia Plath is my all-time favourite poet, hands down. I love her poems, and I've read quite a few of this collection without actually owning the collection. Every single time I went into a bookstore, I would go to the poetry section and I would look for a copy of Ariel, and they wouldn't have won. It became very frustrating because I've wanted this collection for ages. This beautiful hardcover edition was cheaper than the paperback version on Book Depository, and I was not going to complain about that. So because I have been meaning to read more poetry lately, I also got the complete poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, and he is kind of like a gothic classic poet. So yes, I've heard a lot about his poetry. I've read a few snippets here and there because, you know, Pinterest exists and I'm a Pinterest junkie, so I am looking forward to reading his whole collection. And then I also got Desert Flower by Maurice Deirdre. I don't know if you guys know, it's been a while now, but a few months ago, quite a few months ago now, I put a blog post about wanting to read more black authors and black main characters because I felt like I'd been deprived of that in my life, and I've kept up with that and I've done quite well, but I've taken a little bit of a break because I've been focusing on Latin American books. But yes, I decided to get this one because I saw it in the sale section, and it was, this cover just spoke to my soul. And Maurice Deirdre, this is an autobiography, it's non-fiction, and Maurice Deirdre, she is someone who was born a Somalian nomad, just travelling the deserts and the land and living like that, but now she has, you know, become a makeup model for Revlon. In 1997 she became a UN ambassador for abuse in African countries, and now she lives in Vienna with her son, and it just sounds like she's done some magnificent things, and I really would like to learn more about her and her life and her experiences, so I can't wait to read this autobiography by her. And then the last book that I bought was The City and the City by China Miviel. I do English literature and creative writing here at uni, and for one of my creative writing classes we just looked at the opening lines of this book because we were looking at, you know, the opening paragraphs that set you and roll you into world building, and the opening paragraph was just hook, line and sinker for me, whatever a sinker is, and I was just hooked into the story and I had to know more, so I had to buy this book once I saw it was on the sale because I need to know what happens in the rest of the book. I know it's also a teleseries, so I can watch that later on. It's about this really decaying and, you know, high in criminal levels kind of city, and a murder happens there and the investigator gets sent there and he thinks it's a normal case that you can, you know, he'll go there, see the problem, find the murderer, close it up. However, it turns out there's a whole lot more about it, and as he digs deeper into the case he comes up with all these conspiracy theories about things he did not know was going on in this city, and well, that's pretty much all you get to know. It sounds dark, it sounds mysterious, it sounds thrilling. I was sold. And I haven't won any giveaways in a long time, but I've been entering more than usual, and well, the tides have shifted. I won 2 giveaways in this past month, and I was able to choose a book of my choice from the Book Depository for each giveaway. So I got 2 books that I've really eagerly been anticipating, and I'm going to show them to you right now. First one I won from Read by Nika on Twitter. She has a lovely Instagram and her Twitter is thebomb.com, so I'll leave links to both her Twitter and her Instagram down below. And the book that I chose was Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. Now this is a book, again, written by a black author with a black main character. The main character is Marvin and he has a twin called Tyler. Marvin and Tyler go to a party, and Marvin loses track of his brother, but things go down and his brother ends up missing. However, when they find Tyler again, he has been murdered. Yet security footage shows that he was actually shot by a police officer, and the police officers offer him and his family a lot of money if they hush up about the situation. But Marvin wants this story to be told. And that's basically the premise for this one. It has been compared to The Hate You Give, which I have not read yet, but I think it's going to be a very emotional, moving book that's going to make me feel all the feels and learn a lot of things, so I'm very much looking forward to reading it. This last book I won from Hannah Books and Other Things. Her YouTube channel is amazing. She's a new booktuber and she's really doing a great job starting off. I love her videos, so definitely check her out in the link down below. But for her 250 subscriber giveaway, I won a copy of Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. You may know Trevor Noah. He's a very famous comedian who is so woke and so hilarious. He runs The Daily Show. I love watching that. I love watching the snippets on Comedy Central. He has an autobiography where he's told his life story about being born a crime during the apartheid time in South Africa because his mother was black and his dad was white, and he really paints his mother in a very, very good light. He really respects her, and his mother went through a lot, and I think you also get to know more about that in this book. So I can't wait to read this one, and I know delve into someone's life sounds a bit like creepy, but I think his life, you know, his experiences are really important, and we can all really learn from them. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this one as well. There you have it. Those are the 15 books that I've got in the last 2 weeks. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below what books you've recently bought, received or acquired. And yes, if you're going to read any of these or have, let me know. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell if you want to be updated every time I have a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!